Hey, what's up, everyone? Lord Ryujin here again. Having to make what I feel is probably my 15th, 16th, whatever attempt at explaining this to people. So this is really going to just be kind of a little bit of a rant video. I'm not really trying to attack anyone directly. I just want to make a few things clear. See, people have always kind of come forward and said, well, you're nothing but a Nintendo fanboy. And I always hate that word, fanboy. Because we use it in such a negative fashion nowadays that I feel like it's almost an insult. It's like saying the N-word around a black person. It's something that's not really necessary to say. So what if I like Nintendo? I also happen to like Sony and Microsoft and Sega and Atari. I believe that if a company does something right, you commend them. And when I look at the Wii U, I see a lot of things that were done right. I love what they did with the gamepad, the fact that they did something different. I love the fact that the online is free, something that Sony and Microsoft can't say. I love the first-party exclusives that we get, and even though I will admit that the third-party support is a little lacking, which is what we'll get into later on in this video, I think that for the most part, Nintendo's made a decent attempt at getting third-party developers on board. But this is something that Nintendo fans don't really pick up a system for. I mean, there's a lot of people that have even said, I just play games on my PC, and I pick up Nintendo for the exclusives. So I never understood why people then go and they say, well, why is this game exclusive for the PS4? Because exclusives help sell systems. If you don't believe me, why is it that Mario Kart and Smash Brothers are two of the best-selling games on a Nintendo system? Is it because you can also get them on the PC? No. You can only get them on Nintendo franchises. There's a reason why people lose their minds when a new Zelda is announced, because it's an epic fantasy adventure that you can only get on the Wii. And on the Wii U. And on Nintendo systems and whatever, in general, So it's a very unique experience that you can expect to come out of this. And I do understand where a lot of people are coming from. I do talk about Nintendo a lot, but again, I just feel it's because when a system does something right, or when a company does something right, you need to stand up and defend them. And I see nothing that Nintendo's doing is wrong. I mean, I remember when people were talking about the Wii U was only selling this much, and Nintendo lost, I don't know, $500,000 or whatever it was. I think it was maybe $500 million or something that they lost. And I'm just like, but they're expanding and they're hiring and they're unifying their forces into one, so that way they can develop games for the portable and home market together. Sony has lost $1.5 billion. And they're selling off their assets and only basically sticking, for the most part, basically only sticking to the PlayStation brand. But they're okay, right? Let's not talk about that. And it just seems like it's some kind of a hypocrisy. It's like Nintendo, if they lose just a little bit of money, it's doom and gloom, Nintendo's out of business. But if Sony loses half their assets, cuts their company in half, oh yeah, they're fine. It seems like it's a hypocrisy, and it's like, what about the Wii U is bad? It's underpowered. So is the Wii. So is the 64. So is the GameCube. So is the Xbox One, technically. But we don't talk about that. We love the Xbox One, but we don't talk about, it's technically underpowered compared to the PS4, and the PS4 is technically underpowered compared to PCs. So what? That's what a console is. It is an underpowered machine designed for people who are on a tighter budget that maybe can't afford to plop down a fortune to get a device that runs super efficiently. Because to some people like me, that doesn't matter. Do you think that I care if Splatoon, for an example, is 60 frames per second at 1080p, which it is, and that's another discussion that we're going to get into. No, I don't. I talked about this in my Ironfall Invasion video. I really wouldn't care if it was 30 frames per second. If the game is fun and enjoyable, I'm going to want to pick it up and play it with my family, with my friends, get online with people. I'm going to want to enjoy the game, because that is what it should be about. It shouldn't be about how good it looks. And I'm very ashamed that we've come to this era in gaming to it's all about how it looks. All about how it runs. Oh, look at how it runs. It's 80 frames per second. 5000K. Oh my god, it's the game of the year. It plays like shit, dude. The game plays like shit. How can you defend this? Meanwhile, here's a game over here that plays gorgeously. You press the button, the character jumps, it runs. It's just not 1080. It's 720, but it looks and runs good. And and I made a video that sort of explains it, about how the industry is sort of attacking Nintendo, because it makes a ton of sense to me. It really does. If you have a system like the Wii U, for example, which is the cheapest option of the three, has all the first-party exclusives that you could want, and it gets all the third-party support, Microsoft and Sony, they make no money. And they're in business to make money. So, of course, they're going to throw money at Capcom and Ubisoft and EA to develop games for them. It only makes sense, because they, like I said in other videos, are third-party dependent. If Ubisoft doesn't make a game for the PS4, Sony will lose money. Nintendo is the only company that doesn't need third-party support. They make enough money off of their first-party franchises and really off of their hardware sales, since they are solely hardware dependent, that they can afford not to deal with third-party supports. And so this is why I made a plea in a previous video that they really shouldn't even bite into this. They should continue to make systems like the Wii U and like the Wii that are their idea of what the gaming industry needs to be. And they need to move forward with it and support it and say either you develop games for it or there's the door. That's really what you should do. And I feel like Nintendo is sort of trying to bend in a little bit. That I saw that with the, and here's another point. When I say this, I saw this with the Wii U. They were trying to say that they were trying to get more third-party support on board, and I believe it, because if you look at all their systems, the only two that did not sell like hotcakes are the GameCube and the Wii U. The two systems that were designed specifically to compete with other companies and bring on third-party support. What systems sold really well where they basically said F third-party support? Could it have been the Wii, maybe? Yeah. So I just don't see the point in people bad-mouthing Nintendo. And really, I would do the same thing if Microsoft was on the same boat. Because really what the Xbox One does is unique to what the PlayStation 4 does. And what the PlayStation 4 does is unique to what the Wii U does. That's what hardware is supposed to be. If it was all identical, I guess people don't understand this. If it was all identical, there would be no point to anything. If the 3DS and the Vita were the exact same system, they looked the exact same, played the exact same games, had the exact same graphical capabilities, which one do you buy? Which one do you buy? But they have to do something different. Like, hey, the 3DS does 3D, the Vita does, has the sticks, and this, that. They each have to do their own individual thing to distinguish them to get you to buy it. I guess people don't understand that. Because let's imagine a world where everything is on par with a PC. Okay? So the Wii U or Project... Let's just move on to the next one. Let's suppose Project NX, the PlayStation 5, and the next Xbox are all on par with what PCs can do. Which one do you buy for? They all have the exact same games. They all have the exact same third-party support. They're all on the same level. Which one do you buy? At that point, it's brand loyalty. At that point, you can say, yes, I'm a Nintendo fanboy because here's a system that is the exact same as all the other systems, but I bought it anyway because it has Nintendo's brand on it. Then you can say I'm a fanboy. But as long as I'm picking up a PS4 to play unique games with the touchpad and to use the gyro sensor and to get online of games like Warframe, which I can only get right now on the PS4. I understand it's coming to Xbox One. And if I'm picking up the Xbox One to play Gears of War, and I believe they're bringing another Mass Effect to it and all that stuff, the unique games that only can come to Microsoft systems, then it is a unique experience that I'm picking that system up for. I'm not picking up one specific system and playing every single game that I can on. I'm picking up all of the systems and playing every game that I can. So I don't see myself as a fanboy. And the main reason why people say that I'm a fanboy is because I defend Nintendo. But again, I've made this point before, you really have no purpose to not support it unless you deliberately want it to fail. Yes, its sales are not up to par, and it will never catch up to the PS4. But there's another system that will never catch up to the sales of the PS4, and it starts with an X. But yet we don't talk about how bad that system is, do we? We don't. It's just, it's good. It doesn't technically do the same. And it also upsets me that people don't even breathe Nintendo in the same sentence as Microsoft and Sony. It technically is a competing system. That's just like only talking about the Vita. Or even only talking about the 3DS because it's the only one that's selling and not even talking about the Vita. The Vita is technically competing with the 3DS. Maybe not on the same level, but it is competing. But you have to understand this whole cause and effect thing. Because third-party developers don't like the Wii U, they don't like Nintendo because they actually have to then come out with quality games rather than just shoveling it in for the sake of making money at a certain time of year. Because Nintendo likes finished products. There's a reason why they bumped Legend of Zelda for the Wii U up to next year. Because they actually want a finished product that is, complete and done. But because third-party developers won't support it, people think it's crap, so they won't buy it. So then third-party developers say, well, none of our games sell on it, so we're not going to develop any games for it. And it's a cycle. You develop games for it, people buy them, you see that the system makes money, so then you'll make games for it, and it will sell. And blah, blah, blah. But when you do it the other way around, you don't develop games for it, and it doesn't sell, and you use that as an excuse, you're part of the problem. Third-party developers are part of the problem. They look at the bottom line. They do. They look at the bottom line. Hey, the PS4 is selling a ton of systems. They're selling like crazy. Let's develop only for that system because we know that we can get more money out of it. But I've talked about this before with like Resident Evil Revelations 2, for an example, where Resident Evil Revelations sold more on Nintendo-based systems through the 3DS and the Wii U than it did on the PS3, PS4 combined, and on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One combined. But yet you don't want to develop it for Wii U because you're stupid. It sold more on Nintendo-based systems. Okay. And I've already talked about this before, that if you could make it for the 360, think about what the 360 is. The 360 is what, 9 some odd years old now? Uses DVD formats, so a lot of games like Alien Noir had to be like 500 discs in order for you to play the whole game, where it had to only be one disc on the PS3. If you can develop it for the Xbox 360 using DVD format and nearly a decade-old technology, you can develop it on the Wii U, which uses Blu-ray and is technically more powerful than the 360 and PS3. I debate that it's as powerful, if not more powerful, than the Xbox One, but only because of the fact that games like Splatoon can do 1080p 60 frames per second, and the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles X can do 1080p 60 frames per second. But the Xbox One has trouble doing that. Most of their games run at 900p native. So I don't see what the problem is here. If you got more games that are running natively at 1080p, then obviously the Wii U is more powerful than the Xbox One, but we don't talk about that, do we? No one wants to talk about Splatoon being 1080p 60 frames per second, because developers don't want you to know that the system is actually capable of doing 1080p 60 frames per second. Because they told you that it's not capable of doing 1080p 60 frames per second, and that's the reason why a lot of games are coming out for it. But there are games that are 1080p 60 frames per second on the system. And honestly, there are a lot of games that are coming out for the Xbox One that aren't 1080p 60 frames per second. But again, I don't care, because if they were running at 800p 25 frames per second, I'd still pick it up if it was a game that I wanted to play and I would thoroughly enjoy. So any excuse that you can come up with, oh, the system isn't capable of running 1080p 60 frames per second, that's the reason why. No, it can. There's a ton of games that are doing that. It doesn't have exclusives because developers don't want to develop for it. Even games like Rayman Legends was going to be a Wii U exclusive, but they saw more money from, Sony and Microsoft. So they figured, yeah, we'll develop for them too. But it still sold more on the Wii U than what it did for the other systems. I mean, come on here. Third-party developers are the problem. We need to demand more from them, and we need to stop attacking each other. Is really what the point of this video is. I felt like standing up here and defending myself a little bit, as well as to give a reason why. I don't really like being called a fanboy, and I really think that it's kind of unfair, because that's like me going straight up to you, slapping you in the face because you play Xbox One, and it's like, how dare you play Xbox One? Dude, that's your right. Maybe you had a really fun time playing your 360, and the only thing that you could afford was a Microsoft system, and so you wanted to buy an Xbox One, and you thoroughly enjoy it. You're loving the crap out of the games that are out for it. That is your choice. I'm not going to attack you. And I'm also not going to attack people that strictly play PlayStation, because I have friends that's all they play. That's all they like is PlayStation, and they don't buy anything else. And that's fine, because you know what that means? Add me on your friends list, and when we get some common games, let's play online together. I'm not going to sit there and attack them and say you're a Sony fanboy and I can't stand you because I like Nintendo. No, I like PlayStation as well. Let's play together. We need to come back to that point where we as gamers are more concerned about finding common ground. Because again, I talked about this in other videos. Hey, you like the same game I like to play. Let's talk about how much we like to play it. Oh, you like to play it on PC? I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were superior to me. That's not how this should be. We should enjoy the same games together and talk about it. Regardless of how you play Dark Souls, if you like to play Dark Souls, talk about why you like to play Dark Souls. What do you like about it? It doesn't matter what system you played it on. You see what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, guys, this is just my 2 cents on the matter. Make sure that you join the conversation in the comments down below. Please try to keep it friendly, because I try to keep my channel relatively friendly, not attack people, and really just talk in a manner to where it's more like a debate or a discussion, Oh, goodness. I don't really know what else to say. I just don't understand why I get attacked like this, because I don't think there's anything wrong with liking Nintendo, because the system does a lot of things right. Yes, it does a lot of things wrong, but it does a lot of things right as well. And there's a lot of things that the Xbox One does wrong, and there's a lot of things that it does right too. There's no point in attacking one specific system when the source of the problem is coming from third-party developers that are more interested in money than developing quality games. But that's just my 2 cents, guys. Make sure that you share yours. This is running a little bit longer than I expected. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.